sometimes you just feel selfish that you want children so bad that you don't think of them being this way. So hopefully maybe somebody will, sometimes you feel you put yourself first. Really I want children, but so maybe somebody will realize that, you want children, but you want them healthy, you want them to be able to live, you want their quality of life, just like anybody, to be good.
I've said publicly, when you come to guys like us, it is our mission to get you pregnant no matter what. And we, have to be held accountable, because otherwise that no matter what will lead to certain irresponsible practices. You will see the septuplets and the octuplets. These are preventable complications. These are iatrogenic, doctor-induced complications. And they're always with a good intent. A woman wants to have a baby. But unfortunately, you don't always see such nice outcomes. And some people are injured, and some babies are injured, and some babies die as a result of this type of care. Okay, so you could actually, on Wednesday, if there's a need, you can put them in starting at 8.
Okay, great.
Dr. Mark Sauer runs the Columbia University Fertility Program in New York. He says that few couples are prepared for the stress of high-tech fertility medicine.
It makes this field very hard because with every case that you take on, there is at least as good a chance of failure as success. And that there's a heavy price, not just emotional, but also financial, that these couples have to pay to reach that point where they either walk away, pregnant or not. It's disturbing. All these happy endings, there's at least another one that's not quite so happy on the other side that usually is not profiled. So I'm just going to start by taking a good look at the ovaries. Wow. She has a lot of eggs.
Sauer was one of the pioneers of getting older women pregnant using eggs from younger women.
And the fluid that I'm receiving into this test tube is going to probably have an egg in it.
He now sees an alarming escalation in the price some clinics are willing to pay these young women.
It's like the old gas station wars when I was a kid, where one lowers their price, the other one does, and how low will it go? And except it's the opposite, how high will it go?
Last year, one of the leading New York area clinics doubled the price it was paying egg donors to $5,000. Some couples have offered up to 10 times that amount.
The question becomes, when is the payment excessive? When is it more than just compensation for reasonable risk and time? When does it become an enticement? When does it become a solicitation, or as one of my colleagues actually in the UK said, are you pimping for patients?
Tall, reddish hair, blue eyes, let's see.
In San Rafael, California, Jacqueline Gorton runs an agency that recruits egg donors.
These women, are doing this to help. It's not just to sell. I won't work with a woman, she's too focused on the money. That's not a candidate that we would want to work with. Let's see, anything else in the family health history?
Like a talent agent, she represents young women willing to sell their eggs to desperate couples.
The money has actually enabled me to fulfill a few dreams of my own. I got a brand new car, my very first and only one. And I was able to take a trip to Australia with my fiance, and I've wanted to do that since I was about 3 years old. Went diving in the Great Barrier Reef, went exploring the tropical rainforest. As a biologist, it was paradise. So.
Catherine Reynolds is 30 and has provided eggs for 6 infertile couples.
Yeah, it's not just about the money. It's something that, are you going to be attached later? Are you going to feel like this is your child? And I feel personally I contributed building materials that I wasn't going to use.
We're speaking about the reconstruction of our notion of childhood. What does it mean to be a child? What does it mean to be a parent?
Nigel Cameron trained as a minister and now teaches bioethics at Trinity University outside of Chicago. He argues that we are turning the miracle of conception into a commercial enterprise.
You put these design elements in there, and whereas the children may be very much wanted and planned for children, they're also controlled children who have become not simply gifts to their parents, which is one of the ways in which children retain their dignity and cease to belong to us as creatures of their parents, in which these children also become manufacturers. They become consumer products.
we were born only without sex. So
Both Tyler and Spencer Madsen were born through in vitro fertilization.
you were in one room and Dad was in the other. Instead of being in one room, no kissing or touching or nothing. Just waiting.
That's right. How do you think we felt when it didn't happen by itself? Do you have any idea how we felt?
Sad?
What?
Sad?
Yeah.
Very
'cause-
sad.
Yeah. We felt really sad. Because we really, really wanted you guys.
Whenever I hear that, I remember this movie when it shows like these green aliens, separate rooms, like they were touching each other in separate rooms. They're like,
Spencer and Tyler's mother, Pam Madsen, runs the New York chapter of an organization for infertile couples called Resolve.
I think that the media, maybe the public at large as well, they look at the high-tech in vitro fertilization, high-tech as people call it, baby making, which I'm not sure about that term. And they think that somehow it's very sci-fi and high-tech. It's not the children will be different and we'll feel differently, the children might feel differently. And I think what's really interesting is how ordinary it really is.
But each technology opens up new ways of having children. Susan and Deb figured out a unique way to have theirs.
Deb has been an egg donor for me, and then I'm going to carry the baby, and hopefully if we have other children in the future, then we'll reverse the process, and I'll donate an egg to her, and she'll carry it, and that's about as close as two women can come to having children together.
Last November, Deb had her eggs removed and fertilized with the sperm from the cryobank. After months of deliberation, they had found their man. He is 6'1", blonde, musical, and a pre-med student.
Susan finally said, well, you know, you don't have to date this guy or have him be your husband. We just want somebody solid, good father material.
And for me, the milk.
Susan is now pregnant with Deb's egg.
You know, it's confusing. Deb actually has to adopt the baby even though it's her egg. So it's sort of really messing around with, you know, how things usually work.
Do you think that confusion could be difficult for the child?
I think that the child hopefully will understand, particularly after seeing us filming the process and talking about it, that we really wanted to do this and we really wanted to do it together and this is the best solution we came up with. And, you know, I think if I were that child, I would feel good that we put so much time and energy into making the decisions and planning and thinking about how we wanted to do it and why.
Certainly the fabric of society gets changed by these types of paradigms and taking, you know, males out of reproduction, which we do actually these days when we're dealing with lesbian couples and inseminating them with donor sperm. I don't think that's that troubling because it's a small group of the population that we're servicing that way. I think people would like to have this image that Americans are this Ward Cleaver and his wife type families, and they're not. There's all types of women and men wanting to have children.
I think once the baby's born, the fact of the technology and what we did will become relatively less important. I think that's important for us and feeling bonded as a couple and having a child into a joint effort. I don't think that's going to come into play at PTA meetings. I think the fact that we're two women together may.
I really want to go to the preview party.
That's tomorrow?
It's tonight. It's like 5:30.
Across America, the rapid advance of technology has led reproductive medicine deep into uncharted ethical terrain, a journey fueled by the desperation of infertile couples like Marie and Guy Arcuri of Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
It was difficult because we wanted to be friends with our friends and we wanted to love their children. And when you do that, you know, we automatically became aunt and uncle, Uncle Guy, Aunt Marie, and all of our friends' children called us that. And it began to become pretty painful to be called Uncle Guy because, you know, I'd rather be called Daddy.
After years of failure, Marie learned that she suffers from a rare genetic condition called Turner's syndrome.
But I would never have known it if I hadn't gone through this infertility. So it was kind of fascinating to find out a few things, like that I had I have somewhat of a webbed neck, and I used to kid as a child that I had a terrible time doing somersaults. And he was a gymnast, and Guy was a gymnast in college, and we used, and you'd watch him do all these things, and I think, God, I can't even do a somersault. What is the deal? And now realizing that I had some, I didn't know what I had at that point, but it's kind of, you look back on stories of things that happened, and obviously that's why I'm short.
Maria is a very unique person. She has a form of Turner's syndrome.
What time is everybody coming over?
But the meaning of that for her was that she was unable to have a pregnancy. The embryos she was making were missing chromosomes, and she was unable to get pregnant.
I think that Dr. Griffo's always been a straight shooter from the very beginning. Said these are the facts. Your chances are slim. This is what I have to offer, but I'm going to be factual with you, and try to separate your head from your heart, which is very difficult in infertility.
And I even actually said to her, Marie, I think we should stop trying because I don't think this is going to work.
Let's see, how many fertilized?
Dr. Jamie Griffo runs a cutting-edge research program at New York University Medical Center, which specializes in selecting embryos that are free of certain genetic diseases.
Well, hopefully it'll work again.
On day 3 after fertilization, the embryos are usually between 5 to 8 cells. And using a micromanipulator, which is just a fancy microscope that allows us to use these robotic instruments, little glass pipettes that we forge, to do microsurgery on an embryo. And what we do is we take this 8-cell embryo and pluck one of the cells out of it so that we can do a genetic analysis on that single cell.
I think we all kind of have this assumption that you don't tamper with nature, and to tamper with an 8-celled embryo and pull 2 out, that's kind of violent almost in a sense, but if it'll give us information that we can use to have a child, I'm for it. But some people, kind of think there's a shock value there.
This repelled something deep inside us, the notion that because early embryos already are members of the human family tree. I mean, here we have somebody who has uncles and cousins and grandparents. This is already a member of our own species. I think it's extraordinary that we so glibly are moving into a situation in which the smallest members of our species become our own research objects.
It's a tough topic to talk about, embryo research, because what does that mean, and how do you do research on an embryo? Because there are people in society who think that an embryo is a baby, and certainly I treat every embryo with respect that it is a potential human. But if you look in nature and you know what I know and seen what I've seen, what you learn is that embryos are made all the time. We just don't see them. Most embryos don't make babies.
We felt constantly that we were making serious ethical decisions every step of the way. And we considered them always with the goal of the best interest of the child we would like to have.
Okay, I caught him. You want ice cream?
What kind do you have?
Chocolate.
Can I have some truffle sprinkles? Do you have some of those?
Yeah.
After 3 miscarriages and years of treatment, Hope Marie Arcuri was born in 1995. She does not have Turner's syndrome.
At our daughter's baptism, Marie got up and gave a little speech, and she said, we named our daughter Hope because we really believed and hoped that God would allow us to be parents. But some people think that she should be named Determination. And that truly fits my wife. She's a determined woman.
Do you remember what these are?
They're cookies.
No, one of these embryos is you.
That me?
That's you.
Doesn't look like me.
It doesn't look like you?
I'll do this for you right now.
3 months ago, Hope got a baby brother, Matthew, who is also free of Turner's.
What a miracle. I mean, what a miracle that I have 2 healthy children that I never, ever thought I'd have.
Don't put it in my eyes.
While the science that created Hope and Matthew is still in its infancy, it holds both great promise and troubling implications. The next step will be to repair and improve the embryo's DNA.
Once the technology has been perfected, it's the same technology no matter what genes you want to put in. So if you develop the technology for putting in genes that enhance health characteristics, then that very same technology can be put in to give a child other kinds of non-health characteristics like increased talents, which we'll be able to figure out someday, or increased memory abilities or cognitive skills.
We're looking here at something we've put together. It's a project. And we've built this baby. And the more the biotech people advance in what they can do, the more we're going to build our babies, and we're going to control them, and we're going to design the next generation.
Each year, new, often experimental procedures are tried on patients. Last year, Dr. Griffo announced that he was developing an astonishing new technique for older women. As a woman ages, her eggs become less fertile. So what Griffo is attempting is to remove the nucleus with its genetic material from an older woman's egg and put it into a younger, healthier one. In effect, performing an organ transplant on a single cell.
We've tried it on 2 patients. We were able to reconstruct eggs. It's miraculous. We were able to get those eggs to fertilize. I mean, that was a scientific feat. And those embryos to develop, but we haven't made a baby from it yet.
Griffo's announcement of this new experiment shocked the outside world because his technique was similar to the one used to create Dolly, the cloned sheep.
In general, when you want to do a new procedure in assisted reproduction, you just do it. You could have a bad dream one night and wake up the next day and say, well, I'm going to try that. You know, let me try to fuse 2 eggs, or let me try to take the cytoplasm from one egg and put it in, you know, in the nucleus of another egg, you know, or let me try to clone a human being.
The federal government has refused to fund any research on human embryos because of political opposition, and therefore it has all taken place in private laboratories with little oversight. Mention the word cloning, however, and the government is swift to react. Last October, the Surgeon General and the Food and Drug Administration stepped in, and Dr. Griffo stopped his research.
They hear the word clone and the lights go off and they don't try and really understand. They just hear the soundbite and they don't understand the details and they get confused. This has nothing to do with cloning except that it uses a nuclear transfer technique, which cloning also uses, but the end result is very different.
Dr. Griffo argues that the result of his nuclear transfer would only be a rejuvenated egg that must still be fertilized by sperm, whereas cloning would produce an embryo that could grow into an identical copy of just one person. But others fear that perfecting the technique of nuclear transfer will move us that much closer to cloning a human being.
Whether or not any of us would take that bold step is I think hard to predict. My gut feeling is when there's a challenge and you put it in front of people like us, someone will always take that challenge and take it to the next step.
I'm sure these clinics, even the most responsible of them, will be happy to add this as an option if it satisfies others of their clients and enables them to increase their range of reproductive services.
The best example I can give you as to why physicians are not going to wait as they should is with ICSI. Physicians did not wait to prove that it wasn't going to cause birth defects before they embraced it wholly across the country. And I think we can use that history to understand how cloning is going to go. I'm not advocating the use of cloning in this way. I think it is wrong, but I think it's going to happen.
Together. Okay, let's do the bicycle. Let's do the bicycle.
After 3 tries, Kevin and Mina finally succeeded in having a baby last December. Her name is Kieran, and she has no sign of Cartagener's syndrome. But all of the news has not been good.
7 months into our pregnancy, we found out that Kevin's lungs had deteriorated, and he had a very short amount of time to live unless he got a double lung transplant. We are now exploring the lung transplant list at Stanford, and we do have some difficult times ahead of us. But having Kieran, it makes it all worth it for us in the morning. Every day is happy for us.
When I'm holding Kieran, I don't think about the obstacles at all. I'm just smiling and looking at my baby.
Look at Daddy. Look at Daddy. But when she's up, she's fussy. Who does that remind you of?
Smart girl.
She's the feisty one. She's like me. She doesn't like anything. She gets mad.
This one looks like me and that one looks like Chris.
2 weeks after her premature twins were born, Michelle Whitcomb finally got to touch her babies.
They're so fragile looking that you're afraid that you're going to hurt them. So even when I pick them up the first time, I'll probably be a wreck.
Dr. Katz is pleased that the twins seem to be doing well, but no one knows if there will be any lasting problems.
She's happy now. She just got her diaper changed, so she's happy.
See the baby's face?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 2 eyes, the nose, the mouth here. She looks happy, right?
Yeah, she looks happy.
Yeah, look, she's smiling. Big smile.
Deb and Susan are expecting their baby next month. It's a girl, but they're still debating about the name. Susan wants Ella, and Deb wants Bella.
She looks like a jack-o'-lantern.
Both women say they are planning to breastfeed.
I have a feeling that by the time the kid is old enough to talk about this, it's actually going to be very commonplace. You're going to have kids on the playground going, yeah, well, I was in a petri dish and then this happened and that happened. I mean, I can only imagine, like, what revealing stories about conception will be for in the the next century.
I don't know how far we'll go because it's very hard when you look back. I mean, I've been in this field now almost 20 years, and I just am amazed at where we are.
Every day, the California Cryobank ships out more than 100 vials of sperm, 24,000 a year. They are one of Federal Express's best customers.
I think this is a revolutionary, evolutionary point in our history as a species. I really believe very, very strongly that our species will change. We have taken control over our own evolution as a species. We have no idea where we're going to end up, but we're going to control our evolution, not nature. So I am very ambivalent about this technology. I'm excited about it on the one hand, and I'm frightened to death on the other.
Check out more of this report at our website. Review the philosophical and ethical issues concerning advanced reproductive techniques. Test your knowledge on success rates, procedures, and research studies in our interactive quiz. Plus, get the full collection of thought-provoking interviews and much more at www.pbs.org.